on Twitch and YouTube any second now. We are waiting for Sportscaster, and that should be good to go. All right, cool. So, 2-game slate today, NFC. I think this is the first year they're doing the AFC and the NFC just switched to the same exact day. I think they're doing that next week as well. I know the Packers play on the Sunday game, and I believe the 49ers do as well. So 2-game slate today. There's big prize pools. There's not a ton of contests that are great, but there's obviously the big one up top, $250,000 to first, 150 max. Like I said, not as many good prize pools as you'll get on that 4-game slate, but this 2-game slate has a lot more and a lot better prize pools than yesterday's 2-game slate. And it just makes a lot of sense because yesterday you had the 4-game slate starting up, so it doesn't make sense for DraftKings to open up huge contests when they're trying to promote that big 4-game slate. Once that starts up, well, then you promote the next best thing, which is the 2-game slate, and then you're going to promote the next best thing, which is the showdown slate, and I think it has more money than last night's showdown slate in it, if I do remember. What's going on? What's going on, Steve-O? What's going on, Carlos? What's up, Gerald? Yeah, so it's a 2-game slate. Going to go live for a little while here. We're going to talk about it. It's pretty easy to cover, I would say. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of ways you can go because, look, you have 3 top studs on this slate, and you can argue with me, and it's not a stud Tyler Lockett, but you could argue with me that there's 4 players that have that 30-point upside, 25, 28-point upside, and get there more times than a lot of people. What's going on, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? I dominated the 2-game slate yesterday. I'm in the top 10% of all lineups in the 4-game slate with 3 players. Howard just donated $5. He says, Thielen or Diggs? Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'll get into all that. For your question, Howard, for the donation, appreciate it. I prefer Diggs. I only have, look, they're the same price. I have Diggs for like a fantasy point more in projection, but I also have his ceiling being a lot higher. I think both are in play today. I'll take Diggs there. I currently have Diggs in more lineups. What's up, Zach? What's going on? A lot faded Henry yesterday. Yeah, Henry, he went off yesterday in the like $180, $100 buy-in, $180 buy-in, $200 buy-ins. Those buy-ins, he was like 5% on. So if you don't have him, you might not win, right? I mean, I stacked a lot of Dalvin Cook plus Alvin Kamara's in those types of lineups, those 3 maxes in my single entry lineup actually as well. Did I? My single entry lineup has, Cook, Devin Singletary, and for the 4-game slate, and Kamara. So, yeah, as long as none of those guys go, like if you get Dalvin Cook going for 25, Kamara going for 20, it's not the end of the world. If one of them busts, you're not going to win a tournament, but at 5% ownership, Cook going off at low ownership is great for the people who have him, but doesn't really hurt us if you don't have him in terms of still having a top finish and potentially winning a tournament when fields that have 100 people, only 5 people have him in them, right? So their lineups are going to have to be pretty perfect after that to cash. So, yeah, Derrick Henry went off on his birthday. I think he turned 26 yesterday. Just unreal. Dude's an absolute monster. The fact that in that Alabama game where you see him just towering over Mark Ingram, the fact that he was like, 22, 23 at that point, just unreal. So, yeah, appreciate that, Howard, for your donation. I'll go Diggs there. I'm personally going Diggs in more lineups as well. I'm going to just pull up YouTube comments just to make sure that everything is working and flowing properly. I see that they stopped on my end, but maybe that's just because people aren't commenting. But, yeah, I think it's an interesting case because you have Kamara, you have Dalvin Cook, and you have Michael Thomas. Thomas is probably going to be the highest owned of the bunch, and he's the most expensive by almost $2,000. So you probably can't get to all 3 of them. Otherwise, your lineup's going to look pretty gross. So I am interested in seeing what happens in terms of lineup construction after. Okay, so I'm seeing now that there's a lot more messages coming in via the YouTube comments on my phone than I'm getting here, so that's not great. But, oh, here we go. I had to scroll down. Duh. Thanks for the content, Sal. No problem. RIP Patriots. Yeah, they're bounced. Thinking Vikings playing from behind and then Thielen gets monster targets. I think they both see an increase in targets of like 30% than usual. I think Cousins throws 30% more than usual, around 40 times in this one. So instead of seeing the normal 6 targets, 6.5 for Diggs a game, I think you get somewhere around 8 or 9, 10 maybe. Instead of Thielen's normal 5 a game, I think you get somewhere around 7, 8. $5 donation by Michael Mays. I appreciate that, man. Do we know if Ertz is playing? If he does, do you play him or fade him? He was cleared to play, so I imagine he plays. He's only 5,400 on the 2-game slate. Obviously, on the showdown slate, he's in play. I don't want to play him. Look, I play one lineup for, I don't know if I'm going to play cash, but one lineup in terms of like mid-stakes single entries, throw that into 3 maxes, see if I want to do more. There's not a lot of contests out right now for this 2-game slate. Well, there's a lot of contests, but not a lot of good contests. You have to pay like $500, $2,000 to get into some of the ones with higher prize pools. There's a couple of like $180 buy-ins, $50 buy-ins, single entries that I think look okay, but not great. But in those ones, I'm not prioritizing Zach Ertz today. Look, the guy literally has a broken rib touching his spleen, severing it. I think he's going to have a ton of padding on, which should help, but should also impact his play. And I also think his snaps will be limited, but it does ruin Joshua Perkins for me today to some extent. But yeah, I think that he's definitely, I would say, in play. Late swapped a lot of Cousins and Diggs stacks. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Good call, Luke. So late swap is huge here. If you have a bunch of dead lineups, you should be getting onto things that are low owned. Carson Wentz and Kirk Cousins today will be the low owned bunch out of the quarterbacks, and all the pass catchers from Minnesota will be low owned. Seattle pass catchers, they'll be relatively low owned compared to the Saints guys, compared to maybe some of the Seahawks guys or some of the Eagles guys. Yes, Ertz is playing, but doubt you should play him. Yeah, I agree. Everyone donate to this man who takes time to help us. Michael Mays, yeah, I appreciate the $5 donation. Hopefully you're having a great start to your Sunday, everybody. Yeah, Ertz is playing. Well, he was cleared to play, so I imagine he's going to play. He was practicing limited all week, then he gets cleared to play, so I imagine he's going to play. Best running back today, I think it's Kamara, and I think the ownership will follow that. I really do like stacking Dalvin Cook and Kamara in some tournament lineups, and I might even do it in my main single entry lineup. I'm not sure yet. And then just not playing Michael Thomas. Obviously, that's a huge risk. If you're playing cash, you should play Thomas, but you can only get 2 of these 3 guys today: Michael Thomas, Dalvin Cook, and Kamara. Where's the opportunity cost today? I think it's at running back, right? Look who's left after Dalvin Cook and Kamara. Sanders, okay, as long as he's healthy, he should be good. But does he have the 25-plus point upside as these guys with Jordan Howard supposedly and reportedly getting touches today, and Scott still back there? I think he has it, but nowhere near as much, and he's priced like it. But then you look at the wide receiver page, right? Outside of Michael Thomas, there's a huge drop-off in price, of over $2,000 to Lockett, who I think probably doesn't reach Thomas's ceiling if Thomas hits that, but can definitely match him. Stephon Diggs definitely has a ceiling on him. Thielen, DK Metcalf. So I think you have some extra pieces to go to. Whereas at running back, if you get Dalvin Cook and Kamara both going for, let's just say, 24 points today, the drop-off could be 15 points. The drop-off could be 12 points. Whereas wide receiver, you're basically hoping that Thomas doesn't go for his 35 to 40-point game if you were to not play him in your single entry, your lineups there. And at the end of the day, it's more of an ownership fade than anything else, and a pricing fade. Philly's going to get upset by the Seahawks. I mean, Philly right now is a 1-point favorite or a pick'em, so Philly's not the underdog. Philly is not technically like a favorite. Like, they're pick'ems in almost 80 to 90% of the books that I'm seeing, and they're a 1-point favorite in like 1 or 2 books. So I would consider it just a pick'em. I don't think anybody's the dog in that matchup right now. Still have Thomas to go in around 100th place. Got 5th place last week, hoping the heater continues. Nice, man. So you only have Thomas left today. That might be a little bit thin if you're in 100th right now with only Thomas. You should be able to cash if that's a huge tournament, I would imagine, but I don't know about getting all the way up to the top. Patriots would have won if White had more touches. Yeah, it makes no sense that they put Burkhead in on a half of the power plays and some pass catching plays. I don't understand. Somebody says Irv Smith, DFS Chief says, yeah, Irv Smith, cheap tight end. I think that he is the cheapest that I would go at tight end on this slate at $2,700. You can see here. I'll make this a little bit bigger for people. He's the cheapest that I would go on this slate. I really do like Jacob Hollister. I'm going to put Ertz as a maybe, not a full-on yes. I think there's a lot of tight end options on this slate. But yeah, Irv Smith's the cheapest that I would even consider. Obviously, there's really not much below that, though. Hoping Tre'Quan Smith goes off with all the attention on Thomas. Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. Look, like Breeze is going to throw even if he throws 40 times in this game. Thomas is bound to see 12 to 15 targets. Kamara will see 8 to 10 targets. Jared Cook will see about 5. The other running backs between Murray, Josh Hill, backup tight ends, and them, they'll see about 5. And then you're getting like 5 to 6 targets split up between the Ted Gins and the Tre'Quan Smiths of the world. Tre'Quan Smith, don't look at his production last week. They pulled Michael Thomas. They pulled Kamara at pretty much halftime. Look at his production before Week 17. He's probably going to see 3 or 4 targets unless they just change the game plan up for this one. They'll have a good matchup, but they just don't use a ton of their slot wide receivers, and they haven't for a couple of years now. Thomas and all the other Saints wide receivers should be good. Yeah, I mean, the other Saints wide receivers don't, like, they're all great matchups for sure. Thomas has the best matchup on the slate. The other Saints wide receivers has good matchups. They just don't use that personnel often. And yeah, Thomas is obviously fantastic. You just got to pay for him. If you have a lineup with Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas, and you want to move up, pivot those guys. Yeah, and Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas will be all the chalkiest players on the slate today. Yep. Love your content, Sal. What 5K wide receiver to wrap up my lineup? Thanks, man. 5K at wide receiver today, it's probably pretty bare. I mean, you're looking at Greg Ward. Greg Ward or DK Metcalf. If you can afford Metcalf, I prefer him to Ward. I'll take Lockett and Kamara today over trying to fit in Thomas. I think that's fine, and I like that move. Look, on the 2-game slate, Michael Thomas does have the best matchup. He is, without a doubt, the highest projected player for me. I have him projected at 24 fantasy points. That is about 4 more than both of the running backs, Kamara and Dalvin Cook, maybe 5 more than those guys. But at the end of the day, he's going to be the highest owned guy. He's probably going to score 25 to 30 fantasy points, but can you build a lineup that you like around that? You will not be able to get to the top 2 running backs. You will not be able to get to Lockett after that. You might be able to get to the Diggs range. You're going to have a pretty bad lineup if you play Michael Thomas today and say like a Kamara or Cook after that. Maybe not bad lineup, but bad people to choose from to fill out that lineup. So I think Michael Thomas is completely fine in the 2-game slate. He might even be a priority, but in my single entry lineups, I might just get away from it today and hope that he just goes for only 130 yards and not 130 and 2 touchdowns. Fade Perkins. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be playing Perkins today. Just with Ertz back. Even if Ertz only plays 20 to 25 snaps and is very limited, not playing 40 snaps, that's 20 to 25 snaps that Perkins isn't playing. What's up, Sal? Do you think they're running Ertz out there as some sort of decoy, and is Perkins a complete fade now? Yeah, Perkins would be a fade for me as long as Ertz is active. So, yes, he's cleared, but just make sure he's actually active when the game time comes in, I don't know, like in 2 hours whenever they get those stats. What's up, man? Thanks for everything, man. Hey, what's going on, Cody? I took both of the tight ends for Minnesota on my team. I would probably do that in Showdown, if anything, but no shot I would do that in the main slate. I also think double tight end is extremely viable on this slate. You have 4 to choose from, but I wouldn't do both from Minnesota. Like, the Minnesota guys would be the last guys I'd even choose at tight end today, but let alone both of them. Breeze or Russ, I have 6.8K left. It depends on what the rest of your lineup is, Goddard, Braun. Who are you? I would try and correlate your lineup then. Do you have multiple Saints players? Go to Breeze. You have multiple Seahawks players? Go to Russ. They're going to be the 2 highest owned quarterbacks on the slate today, so it's not like you're getting different there. Philly will lose. They might. I mean, it's just a pick 'em, so nobody's really favored here. Go Yankees, somebody says. Go Yanks. 6,200 left. Thielen or Metcalf? I'll personally take Metcalf there. I personally am taking Metcalf in that situation in some lineups if you're only playing one. You mentioned Perkins. Are you still playing him with Ertz cleared? No, I am not. I had a lot of him on the 2-game slate and loved the lineups, but thinking of, I would swap off of him. I think if Ertz is going to be active today, Perkins is a no for me. Perkins ran 33 routes last week. Even if Ertz is limited and only runs 20 to 25 instead of his normal 35, that's still going to cut out of the production of 20 to 25 potential snaps for Perkins. I'm not going to start a guy today who's going to have 10 to 15 at most routes run, potentially 0 if Ertz is fully healthy. Well, not fully healthy, but fully out there at least. Wide receivers under 3,500. There is David Moore at 3,400, but keep an eye, make sure that Malik Turner is out. We should have that news not for another 2 hours. David Moore at 3,400 does not provide a lot of upside, but he ran 36 routes last week. You're not going to get 36 routes a lot of the time. Like if Wilson only throws 32 times today, David Moore probably runs like 25 routes. But at 3,400, if Jerron Brown is out, he will run around 25 to 30 routes. He caught 2 balls for 30 yards last week. But if Jerron Brown is in, they're going to split that wide receiver 3 role, and I wouldn't recommend anybody below 3,500. Deonte Burnett on the Eagles ran, I believe he split the routes with Whiteside last week 17 to 15 as the wide receiver 3. He technically started, caught 2 balls on 4 targets for 48 yards. He had a 41-yard reception, which at the end of the game, or to start the fourth quarter, which was a big play. You could take a chance on that. I think he's the minimum price. Robert Davis has been running a ton of routes. He ran 33 routes last week, second only to Greg Ward on Philadelphia. He's 3,200. So, like the Eagles wide receivers behind Greg Ward are running routes. They're seeing targets, but they're dirt cheap as well. But they're seeing like 2 targets, 3 targets. Not a lot of upside to those targets. They're cheap, but they're both behind. Like Miles Sanders, probably Boston Scott are ahead of these guys in the pecking order of priority, and so are both tight ends. So it makes it tough. Do you always play a receiver over a captain in the running back captain or in the captain spot on Showdown? No, not always. It depends on the slate. I prefer, on a high level, I prefer receiver, but it doesn't mean I always do that. Do you think Amir Abdullah will get any targets today? With Madison and Cook back, maybe he sees like 1 target. Sal, I think it's worth fading Thomas on the 2-game slate. I can get behind it. I can go either way. I have lineups with him. I have lineups without. I'm probably leaning to not have him in my single entry lineup today, but he's obviously a fantastic play. The reason that you don't play him is ownership plus just the price of him, right? His price point makes you not get anything else that's decent at wide receiver pretty much. Can you talk about the Seattle running backs, says Ryan? Yeah, I can. So Travis, I think these guys split around 24 or so carries today. I have Marshawn getting like 14, Travis Homner getting about 10. I have Homner getting about 3 receptions. So I have both of these guys seeing about 13 to 14 touches each today. It's hard to really prefer one. They're the exact same price point. Homner's going to get there in the receiving game, but then he's never going to have upside unless he scores from 30 or 40 or 25 yards out, because then anything within the 20, within the 10, within the 5-yard line is going to be Marshawn Lynch territory, especially those coveted touches around the goal line. So Hamner's upside is in the passing game, of course, where the Eagles do struggle compared to on the ground to running backs. So it makes him a little bit more appealing. Marshawn Lynch's upside is, well, he can have 12 carries for 30 yards like he did last week, but have 1 to 2 touchdowns, and that helps. But at Marshawn Lynch's price point, I'm actually going to make Marshawn a no here. And I'm going to make Hamner the maybe. Look, the Eagles give up 69.6 yards per game on the ground. Marshawn Lynch looks clearly out of shape. Even if he scores a touchdown today, and let's just say Marshawn Lynch has 40 yards and a touchdown, he's not going to have a reception. He's going to have 10 fantasy points at 5,100. That's probably not needed. Whereas Travis Hamner can catch 4 balls for 40 yards and have 40 rushing yards. So I'll take Hamner over Lynch. That's something that's changed for me over the past day and a half, just because, look, Lynch is so touchdown dependent, and even with the touchdown, it doesn't matter too much. Chris Jones donates $11. He says, good day yesterday. Thanks, South. Appreciate that, Chris. Really do. Zach says, what pivot stack do you like over Kamara, Breeze, Thomas? Zach Neighbor says, thanks for the $2 donation. Pivot stack off of the Saints today on a 2-game slate. So first of all, you don't have to stack on a 2-game slate. I think it makes sense to. You're still getting that correlation, but you 100% don't have to. If you wanted to pivot off of them, the stack that I like the most, completely low owned, would be the opposite side of that game. Thielen, Diggs, and Cousins. If you're trying to get a pivot off of that Saints game, it's the complete opposite of it, right? If that game goes to a shootout, then they're propelling and they're doing fine on the opposite side of your stack if you run it back, but then so is the Vikings. I personally am not going full on stacks today. Like, I have a quarterback with a receiver. I have some Wentz with Greg Ward. I have some DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson, but I think all these games set up for clear stacking options. 2 wide receivers on Seattle, 2 wide receivers on Minnesota, Kamara and Breeze, Greg Ward plus a tight end. So I really don't have a priority, to be completely honest. I don't have a stance there. I think that the one I would get to the least is the Saints, just because of price point and ownership around it. But I don't have a strong stance. I'm probably not getting to a lot of 4 or 5 man game stacks, just 3-man stacks. Quarterback and a pass catcher, running back with somebody on the other team. Would you flex Ward or Goddard? How does Ertz being in and out affect that? I don't think it really changes much for Goddard. His role is going to stay the same. Doesn't really change much for Ward. He was never really a red zone weapon. The tight ends always are. Ward or Goddard, for me, I have Ward grading out for like 0.4 more fantasy points, I think. Or maybe it's like 1 more fantasy point. So I'll take Ward there, but Goddard has better touchdown upside. I would say Ward has higher target upside in terms of he can get to 8 to 10, where Goddard, now with Ertz in there, is probably going to hover around 6 or 7. Malik Turner is already out. Yes, he is. We're waiting on Jerron Brown news. Best showdown captain in the New Orleans/Minnesota game. I have not looked at the showdown slate for that. There wasn't any good prize pools, so I'm not playing, so I honestly can't help. No hate, but Duke Williams saw 10 targets yesterday, making 4 catches for 49 yards. You said he wouldn't even sniff the field. No hate, but football is random. That's a really good point, Brian, but when I said that on the video, Robert Foster was not ruled out yet. Then Robert Foster was an unexpected scratch. He is the wide receiver 4, which then bumped Duke Williams from the wide receiver 5 to the wide receiver 4. Duke Williams saw 7 of his 10 targets in the fourth quarter and overtime after Isaiah McKenzie got hobbled and injured. So I guess that is the excuse. But at the end of the day, Robert Foster was ruled out after I said that. Meant Duke Williams was up the depth chart a little bit more. And then he saw 70% of his work and production in the fourth quarter and overtime when the wide receiver 3 was then ruled out. So, yeah, 2 injuries is the reason why that Duke Williams saw the field. Not because Duke Williams is good from week 17 when he was the wide receiver 5. So I know you said no hate. I know it's probably 50% a backhanded slap to the face comment, but end of the day, I think that looking at the box scores, and I said this to a couple people on Twitter who said the exact same thing, if you're going to look at the box scores, you should at least gain some context before trying to say, oh, football's random. You don't know what you're talking about, dude. No, he's the wide receiver 5 on the team. The wide receiver 4 got ruled out unexpectedly. The wide receiver 3 got hurt in the fourth quarter and then did not play much in overtime. Just joined. Don't know if you've answered already, but how do you feel about Eagles running backs? I think Miles Sanders is fine. I wouldn't touch the other ones. Sanders is my 3rd option today at running back. Doing late swap right now. I was going to play Goddard. Is there a better play at tight end? I mean, if you need the money, I think Jacob Hollister is just as good, if not better of a play when you factor in salary than Goddard. Exactly, Brian. After it was said he wouldn't see the field. Yeah, everybody agreeing with Brian. Nobody realizes that Robert Foster was an unexpected scratch and the wide receiver 3 was injured in the fourth quarter of the game. Funny. I'm starting to think Scott is a safer play today, especially when you consider passing game. Scott has been solid. I don't think Scott is safe. I think, if anything, he's the riskier running back. They said that Jordan Howard's going to have a role this week as opposed to last week when he was emergency back. If Howard touches the ball 5 times today, that's directly impacting, I would believe, Boston Scott's snaps. Yeah, it might be Homner. I've heard people say Homner and Homner both on broadcasts and YouTube, like looking up clips, so it could be either. I really don't know. What's the highest touchdown equity for Seattle in the red zone? The highest touchdown equity? It's the targets would go to DK Metcalf. Well, DK Metcalf and Lockett are very close. Metcalf barely is like edging out, but I think it's just a running game depending on how close they are. Who do you like better, Diggs or Thielen? Slightly Diggs, and more upside out of Diggs. Will Jordan Howard even play? Yes, they said he's going. So last week he had one snap because he was injured. They said he was an emergency back only. They said this week he will have. So what Doug Peterson said was this week Jordan Howard will have a role in the offense. So I think that's going to be more than the one snap he had last week. Deonte Burton or Whiteside? I would go or Burnett or Whiteside. I would go Burnett if you're going to play one of them. I'm just checking in. Can I count on Perkins today at tight end? I would say no. I like Burnett. Burnett played 17 snaps last week to JJ Arcega-Whiteside's 15. He looked good, so maybe he gets 20 to 25. He's minimum price. You're throwing a dart at it. I think more times than not, there's not much upside there, but you're obviously doing it because it's so cheap. Pivot off of Goddard to Ward. I think they're pretty much like the same play today. They grade out really close. It's Homer, not Homner. I was saying Homer, but fair. Peterson said he will have a definite role. I agree. Yep, I saw that. Thoughts on avoiding Kamara/Cook to pay up for Seattle/Eagles receivers? I mean, the Eagles receivers aren't expensive. The Seattle ones, there's just Lockett. But I probably wouldn't fade both of those guys today. There's not much else left at running back if you're going to fade both. Between running back Abdullah and tight end Irv Smith, who is in play for the Vikings? It's Irv Smith between them two. Abdullah might see like 2 snaps today, 3 snaps, maybe 0, probably likely to be closer to 0, whereas Irv Smith's going to run around 20 to 25 routes. So how do you feel about Cousins of Vikings pass catchers? Do you have a favorite? I would prefer Diggs there. Just higher upside. Can have a tougher matchup, but higher upside player, and I have him projected for more right now. Deron Brown is confirmed out. Okay, that's good to know. So that makes David Moore probably the best punt wide receiver on the slate. Guy says no hate, but trying to call you out in the response, right? Exactly. Great analysis on Duke Williams. So sorry you have to deal. Yeah. No. It's funny because people just they'll wake up in the morning, see the box score, and they'll go, I remember somebody said this. Let's go see who. Thielen's going to smash at low ownership. I think he could. Yeah. Look, me saying I like Diggs over Thielen is just focusing on tournaments. And I think that Diggs has the higher upside. He's done well in this matchup before. It's a tough matchup, but he's done well in it. And I think he'll see Lattimore for 60 to 70% of the game, and he could win that matchup. I don't know, 40% of the time, 50% of the time, and then he doesn't have to face him 40% of the game. So I think both of them are fine. Somebody says, Sal, how did you not project the wide receiver 3 getting injured and the wide receiver 4 not playing? What's the best for Wilson cheap stack today? Metcalf. If you're just playing one guy and you want really cheap, I think I like Metcalf at the wide receiver position because of the price savings, but I think that Jacob Hollister is actually a really good play as well. Sanders or Thielen in the flex? That's a good question. I have Sanders projected for one more fantasy point, so take that as you will. I have Sanders projected for one more fantasy point today. But that doesn't, median projections, they'll help you for sure, but that's not a ceiling projection. So, I have Sanders projected for one more. Hey, Stiles Perkins, even worth rostering now with Ertz playing. I would say no. I think at best he'll see so if Ertz is indeed in and we get news that he's going to play, then I would expect Ertz to play. If he usually runs 35 to 40 routes, I would expect him to run at the bare minimum 25 routes, 20 of them. That just hurts Perkins' upside a ton. Damian says, Sally, very knowledgeable about things. One of the best I've heard breaking down DFS. Thank you. I appreciate that. What are some players you like under 5,500 today? Under 5,500 today, strong interest under 5,500. There's none outside of tight end. I think Jacob Hollister is a very strong play today under 5,500. Outside of that, Greg Ward I think is a good play, not a fantastic play. Let me get rid of Nelson Aguilar since he's not playing today. So guys that I think actually have legit upside, not just sleepers. David Moore is just a fling. David Moore should have 2-3 catches, 30 yards or so today. That's decent at 3,400. But Greg Ward at 5,000 to answer your question. Jacob Hollister at the tight end position. Running back, I would go with Homer, but really nobody's standing out all that much. What position would you recommend paying up for today? I think running back on the 2-game slate. Best quarterback / wide receiver stack today. That's tough because there's so many good ones. I really do like getting to Wentz today because he's so cheap, but he doesn't have great stacking options, right? He has Greg Ward, who is also cheap. So I personally like Wentz, but I don't like his options. So that's the issue, right? If you're talking about an under the radar one, or maybe just one that you can rely on. I think Russell Wilson plus Metcalf, Russell Wilson plus Lockett. Russell Wilson plus one of his receivers is expensive, depending on which receiver you get to. I think that's the more secure one for probably cash purposes, like a Wilson plus a Lockett, a Wilson plus a Hollister. But I personally like Wentz's price point. Now, that being said, I'll go to just like Wentz and Ward. I don't have to full-on stack it. I'll just get to one pass catcher. Burnett is great today. Yeah, I think he's okay. I think Burnett's okay. I think I've projected for like four fantasy points, 4.5. So I haven't projected for like 2 catches for like 23 yards. So obviously that's a median projection once again. So that's not going to win you a tournament. But what if he goes for 2 for 23 and a touchdown, right? It's hard to project touchdowns. Ted Ginn's a bum. Do you like Ted Ginn? No, I don't. I have Ted Ginn projected for, I think, 3 fantasy points. Hi, Sal. Good morning. David Moore, an okay dart throw. Yeah, I think David Moore is the best punt wide receiver. Then behind that, I would put Robert Davis behind that, and then third, I would put Deonte Burnett. If you're talking about players below the 4K range at wide receiver that I like today, I would go David Moore, Malik Turner. I would go David Moore, Robert Davis, and then Deonte Burnett. Burnett's not on this page, but don't worry about it. He's ahead of right now Whiteside. Miles Sanders is going to eat, and people are overlooking him. People aren't overlooking him. He is, I believe, higher projected than Dalvin Cook, one of those guys today. Drop that like, getting free content, return the favor. Appreciate that. Yeah, hit the subscribe button too. There's a good chance we could hit 18,000 subscribers today if we get a little bit of a late push. So right now, if you're watching, somebody let me know how many people are watching, but for sure, hit the subscribe button. Sorry if not relevant, but what are your thoughts on the Patriots losing? I mean, they were just a bad offense. Obviously, at home isn't great. 6-point favorites, 5.5. I think it got down to 5. I didn't think it would happen. Derrick Henry balling out on his birthday was awesome to see. I mean, the guy's just an absolute monster. 34 carries, like unreal in terms of like the type of play there. I think Tannehill had like 72 passing yards. It was nothing in terms of the receiving game going on. But yeah, losing at home, you don't have a good offense. Your best player in Edelman is banged up. After that, you have nothing in the passing game, literally nothing. And then when they can run on you, and that's your one weakness, yeah, you get taken advantage of a little bit. Brady, it's hard to really say, oh, Brady's washed, right? It was a deflected pick 6. And I'm a Rodgers truther. I'm a Packers fan. So, like, the whole GOAT conversation, I don't have envy towards Tom Brady. He's fantastic. So, he's obviously old, but he also had nothing working in his favor. So, there you go, drive-by. Somebody said, no hate, Sal, but I hate you. Is Burnett a good dart throw? So, I wouldn't use the word good. Is he a viable dart throw? On the 2-game slate, yeah, I think he's a viable dart throw. If he catches, he had 2 passes. He only ran 17 routes. So, it was 4 targets last week on 17 routes. That's not going to sustain. But maybe he sees more run this week. Maybe he sees 25 routes run this week. Last week, he only ran like 11 routes, and he saw 4 targets. So if he only runs 11 routes again, he'll probably see 1 to 2 targets. So good, no. Viable on a 2-game slate and showdown, yeah. Is the $500 difference worth it for Wentz? If so, what positions? So what's the $500 difference? Who's the next guy? I don't know what you mean there. Sal, it's Laz Gets Fits. Great content, my man. Thank you, David. Appreciate that, man. Hopefully you're having a good weekend. John Ursula is the guy in the short passing game that the Seahawks could use that few people know about. Yeah, no, he's not going to do much. Anton Murphy. Just don't, on a showdown slate if you want to get cute with that. But look, the guy's not running a single route. He hasn't been playing snaps. This is a guy that barely made the team out of the preseason and hasn't done a single thing since then. He scored a touchdown in the preseason. I don't think that they're going to take their rookie that they let play in the preseason, not even a ton in the preseason, some in the preseason, like second halves of the preseason games. I don't think they're going to let that rookie like play meaningful snaps. And if he does, it'll be like special teams. So like showdown slates, you can try and get extremely cute, but the guy's got to at least be on the field. Like it's literally DK Metcalf and Lockett don't leave the field. And then David Moore will be a guy that's going to play 75-80% of the snaps today. Obviously, Jerron Brown being out, that helps. Malik Turner being out, that helps, but it does not help all that much. I would probably, like I projected like just 1.5 points just to have him pop up into something, not even like a lineup, just have him like pop into my projections for John Ursaya, whatever his last name is, Ursa. I have him running right now. I have him projected to run like 6 routes, so like maybe sees a target. Who are a few of the cheap guys you are interested in so that you can play the studs? Moore, Ward, or someone else? I'm not really interested in Ward. I think he's or Moore. Like I think Ward is very viable. I think you see 7-8 targets at that price point. David Moore is the cheapest I'd go at wide receiver, but even then, like he's not getting into my single entry lineups or anything like that. But I do think David Moore will run around 30 routes today, see somewhere between 2 to 5 targets. And at 3,400, that's the best thing you're going to find probably below 4K today. Probably below 5K. I think David Moore's probably a better play than Traquan Smith today when you factor in price. Just follow you on IG, my dude. Thanks for the A+ content all season. Appreciate that. Thoughts on Kyle Rudolph? 3,500. I'd rather just go down to Irv Smith. They play a very similar role. Rudolph's more of a priority for Cousins in the red zone, so that's obviously why the price point's a little bit higher, as it should. But at that point, I just find the extra money and go up to Hollister if you really don't want Irv Smith. Should I go David Moore and Saints D or Traquan and Seahawks D? I'd go David Moore and Saints D. Best defense to play? I don't have a take on defenses. If you end up with the Vikings defense as 8-point road underdogs, but you like the rest of your lineup, I think that's completely fine. Like, obviously the Saints are the best defense if you're just trying to think about it. Home favorites, good home favorites, have a good pass rush. But Kirk Cousins doesn't make mistakes. This team doesn't turn the ball over. So maybe they get some sacks on him. Maybe Cousins folds under pressure. Like people like to say the narrative that he does on Monday Night Football. Although I don't think quarterback wins are really a stat as much as team wins. But that being said, I don't have a stance on defense. On paper, the Saints look like the best one. They're going to be chalky compared to the rest. But if you get to the Vikings at 2,200, everything looks bad. They're huge road underdogs, but they have a pass rush. They have a good run defense. They have a solid secondary when it comes to their zone defense. So I'm okay getting to whichever one you want to at that point. Uh, 4.4K left at flex. Who should I play? Howard? ? No, I think Howard might see like 6 to 8 touches. I think that's his upside, but no, I wouldn't go there. 4.4K left at flex. I would go to Jacob Hollister at 4,300. Hollister's probably going to run. I mean, the guy's ran 74 routes over the last 2 weeks since Josh Gordon left. Like, that's another reason why David Moore is not that as appealing to me. That's another reason why, like, this John Ursaya guy is not that appealing. Today's, like, priorities in this order will probably be Lockett, probably Hollister, Metcalf right there as number 2. And then your 4th best option is David Moore, and then 5th is Ursaya. There's just not enough to go around, in my opinion. So, yeah, like Hollister is probably going to rival in terms of targets today guys like Metcalf, probably guys like Lockett. I have right now Hollister projected for about 7 targets. Smash the like button. Yes, definitely. The rain affected the Titans-Pats game. Maybe. I don't think it affected it that much. Irv Smith or Burnett? I'll go Irv Smith still. I mean, Irv Smith's going to run 25 routes. Burnett could run 20 if he sees a huge bump, but he ran 11 last week in a game that did matter, but they also were very fine to not just take Arcea Whiteside out there for 0. How come nobody's talking about the Breeze and Cook combo? I think Jared Cook's fine today on the 2-game slate. They didn't like him on the 4-game slate because you had some other tight end options, but today, like, I mean, you have 4 tight ends to choose from. Maybe you have 5. So I think that Jared Cook is fine to get to. He would be a guy that I don't prioritize, but like if you only have if you have $5,000 left, or let's say you have $5,000 left, you already have like Greg Ward in your lineup. I think I would have Jared Cook in there. Say like if you needed a tight end in the flex, you already have Hollister. I would probably still put Jared Cook in there. Sal's last gets fit. Stay strong, my man. Appreciate that. Thank you. No one is talking about Lynch. He will surprise everyone today. Look, Lynch is going to need goal line touchdowns, right? That's it. Like the guy was completely out of shape. He's not going to catch a ball. Maybe he'll catch one for like 2 yards. He'll see, I think, 14, 15 carries today, Marshawn Lynch. And it depends on what he does in the end zone. Like even if Lynch has 14 carries for 30 yards and a touchdown, that's not going to help you. So like Lynch probably needs 2 touchdowns today, or just somehow 20 plus carries and to look like he lost 20 pounds since last week. Somebody says Laz is in the house. Yeah, man. Yeah, he's in here. Sorry, Breeze versus Wentz for the $500 difference. So if you're playing cash, Breeze will be highly owned. I think I have Breeze projected for more fantasy. I have Breeze projected for 2 more fantasy points right now. So if you like the rest of your lineup, I would stick with Breeze. I personally like the lineups that I'm getting with Wentz for the price savings. Thoughts on Irv Smith for 20? I think he sees 20 to 25 routes run. I think he's viable, just not a priority. David Moore was a bit of a red zone beast last year. Yeah, he was injured to start the year. That's why John Brown was cut after the preseason, then re-signed because David Moore was hurt. And then David Moore slowly was getting filtered back into the offense midway through. He caught a red zone touchdown on like a Thursday night game. But they use a lot of 2 tight end sets. Now their guys are banged up. They're using a little bit more 3 wide receiver sets. Like you saw last week, he played 76% of the snaps. So I think that he's viable at 3,400. I just think that Hollister is going to be more of a priority in that offense, which then makes this guy the 4th option in the passing game, which usually doesn't go great for you. Breeze is going to eat today. Yeah, he should. Everything lines up for him too. He's priced like it too. So do the flex actually have a different point structure? Does it actually matter who is in it? No, they don't. They don't have a different point structure. Flex is just you can put any position in there. So for the people who keep asking, Kiki never saw the field yesterday. Screwed some folks. Yeah, I figured that could probably happen. They play a ton of 2 tight end sets, and then I let a lot of people know on the air yesterday that Kiki Kute, DeAndre Carter, and even Steven Mitchell were splitting the slot snaps. So they play a ton of 2 tight end sets. So now you have 2 tight ends on the field a ton. Even with Atkins out, they're playing Thomas as their second tight end. And then you have 50% of the snaps at best, you're going to have a slot receiver on the field, and 3 guys are splitting that work. It's not a great spot to play any of them. You're definitely helpful in my wins this past weekend. Really appreciate what you do. We are, my man. We are. How do you feel about this Jared Cook? Everyone's talking about Philly's tight end in depth. Is he going overlooked? I think Jared Cook is going overlooked. I think he only sees like 5 targets, but his targets are all downfield. And it's a brutal matchup for Jared Cook against Anthony Harris. Led the league in interceptions. I believe he was a Pro Bowler. If not, he was a snub. So it's a brutal matchup downfield where he runs a lot of his routes, but he's being used as a red zone weapon. He's being used downfield a ton. So like Jared Cook's 5 targets are probably worth more than any other tight end's 5 targets on the slate because you have Drew Brees throwing him the ball. They're going to be a lot of red zone usage, and they're going to be like 15 to 20 plus yards downfield. So like Dallas Goddard maybe rivals him, but for the most part, like all of Jared Cook's targets today at tight end are worth more than anybody else's. I would usually say Ertz's are worth more, but due to his injury, I don't know how many snaps he'll actually play, and I don't know how much downfield he's going to be running. I think people are sleeping on Minnesota. I mean, they have the lowest total, slower paced game, road underdog against a good defense. So, like, they're properly on this slate. That team should be slept on the most. But yeah, they have weapons. Laz asks thoughts on the double tight end today. I like it. My single entry lineup currently has double tight end. My single entry lineup that I'm not playing full on 3 maxes today. There's not a lot of good contests, lads, and I don't know if anybody else noticed it. Like, there's a 250K to first, of course. That's going to grab everybody's attention, at least on DraftKings I'm speaking. But like, it drops off a ton. Like yesterday, there was a lot more volume you can get down. Today, it's like unless you want to play the $1,550 buy-ins, which I'm tempting to play the $555 for like it's like $10,000 to first 50-person field, but that doesn't seem fun. It seems like a waste of my money. So yeah, I think there's a couple of small ones you can max out, but double tight end is currently my single entry, my main single entry lineup, which is also then one of my 3 max lineups. So yeah, I like double tight end today. It's just easier to get to, right? Like you have guys at the tight end position that a lot of these guys are going to project out for somewhere around 10 points, right? Depending on how you're projecting Ertz, Goddard, Cook, Hollister. Those 4 players are going to project at or around 10 plus points. Whereas wide receiver, once you're in that same price range of Greg Ward and below, like Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn, those guys, they're not going to project up for 10 points. Greg Ward will, but nobody else there. Same thing you can go for running backs. Once you're into the 5K in the low 4K range, none of these guys are getting anywhere near 10 points in projections for me. Madison, Murray, and Howard, none of them. So when it comes down to it, yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing Jared Cook at 4,900 over Latavius Murray. I'm definitely going to be playing Jared Cook, and I can't, like, Jacob Hollister is the same price as Jordan Howard and Alexander Madison today. It's just a clear play that those guys get into your lineups more. So I think double tight end is like close to a priority on the slate, depending on how you're building your lineups, just because there's so much value in those price tags relative to the backup running backs at the same price tags, the 3rd and 4th string receivers at the same price tags. Is Joshua Perkins out of play? I think so. So I'm 10 points out of the money with 6 spots left on the 4-game slate. That's good. That seems like you're in a good spot. I have my quarterback, 2 receivers, and tight end among them. Should I go up to Breeze or take Wentz/Wilson from that game? Thanks, huge fan. I don't know what the rest of your lineup is right now, but I have Wilson and Breeze both around like 19 fantasy points projected, and Wentz is a little under 18 for me on a pure projection. So they're all very similar to me. I think whichever one you feel the most comfortable with. If your lineup stays the same and you like the rest of it with Wentz in there, I'd keep him. If you can just get the Breeze because you have the extra money and don't change anything else, I would probably go up to Breeze. He's projected a little bit higher. Seems like a safer spot for him. Happy New Year, Sal. Thanks for the content. You bet. Does Ertz get its normal playing time? I have the same information as you right now. All I know is that he was cleared to play. He's likely to suit up. I imagine at the very least he's going to play 20 to 25 snaps. The main reason you want to know if he gets his most playing time is because, one, really just how much can you trust him at 5,400, right? Watching game. Okay, so here's a good report here. It's going to go down. Silas, can you report this again? Ertz will be wearing extra padding. He's scabbing on his kidney, but no blood in his pee, so he's a fade for me. Seems like a decoy. If that's actually true that he's scabbing on his kidney and wearing extra padding, that seems concerning, but man, if the guy's going to die out there, you really think they would play him? Can you play both Latavius Murray and Kamara in the same lineup together? I think you can. I think it's obviously very low upside, but I think you can as 8-point home favorites. Thanks for the advice. No problem. I like everyone is looking at Cook for tight end. I don't think anybody is, but I think he's okay today. What's your lineup for today, somebody says? You just put Aaron Rodgers in every position. That's my lineup. Double tight end today? I think so. I think it's in play. Kyle Rudolph is a sleeper. He is super cheap. He's going to run 25 routes. I think he is a sleeper as well. I don't have interest, but yeah, sure. How about Fisker yesterday? I completely overlooked that one. I think you should have. What did he finish with? I saw he caught a touchdown. I saw he had 8 points. Did he ever get more than that? Diggs or Thielen? I'll slightly take Diggs. Ertz or Goddard? I would take Goddard. Sal's the realist in the DFS game. Appreciate that. 20 to 25 mile per hour winds in Philly today. Do you see an increase in touches for Sanders or Lynch? No, those wins won't matter. 20 to 25 miles for a team that doesn't throw downfield in Philadelphia. For a team that throws downfield 2 to 3 times a game in Seattle, it's not going to matter. And also, keep in mind, stadiums block out wind, 1. 2, wind gusts do not sustain the entire game. They come here and there, so you'd have to be real unlucky for the 1 to 2 times you throw 40-plus yards downfield in the game for that wind gust to come in. So, and then also, Philadelphia just doesn't throw downfield. Like, unless you're throwing 25-plus yards downfield with air under it, then it's going to impact your ball if a wind gust comes in, if the stadium doesn't block it out. So wind is so overrated, it's incredible. Like, unless there's literally a hurricane moving through and they did not cancel the game and it's downpouring with continuous wind, that'll affect the game. Otherwise, nothing really affects football games. Hey, Sal, favorite guy to pair with Wentz today? Thanks. Probably Greg Ward. Ward and Whiteside both with Wentz. I would never play Whiteside today. And I can't wait for Twitter later today when the people who are sitting anxiously to rewatch my live stream to see one of the things that I said that didn't go right, because it's bound to happen, and they go, oh, he said he never played Whiteside? He caught 1 pass for 18 yards. I'm going to get him. No, Whiteside's running the 4th most routes. He's now the wide receiver 4 on this team based on the last 2 weeks of snaps. He's behind Robert Davis by a wide margin now on playing time, and last week he actually went behind Deonte Burnett in snaps by 2. So Whiteside is now the wide receiver 4 if you're going based off of the last 2 weeks of routes and snaps. I have Hollister at tight end. I think that's a fine option. Do all of your lineups have players from each team? Or, yeah, I don't really mention. I like the idea of fading games. Like, there's no game strategy for that. I'll stack a quarterback with his wide receiver. If I like some guys from a game and I don't get any from another game, that's fine. But I'm not prioritizing it to get to that. So, there's no coding to I'm going to just not play Vikings. No, if I like Diggs, if I like Thielen, I'll play them. If I like Cook, I'll play him. Some of my lineups won't have guys in them, but that's just because there's 4 games and you can get full lineups without a full game. All right, gang, I'm going to bounce. I'm doing a 45-minute show today. I'll be off of this in 1 to 2 to 3 minutes. If you want to make sure I answer your question, you can be sure to just hit the super chat, and I appreciate either way. If you do want to super chat and donate, I really do appreciate that. I will also be posting you can check out my Patreon exclusive content. I believe that's linked down below. Head over to Instagram, follow me there, follow me on Twitter. Appreciate all that. I do have the 2-game slate video out today. If you are jumping in late here, you can rewatch this video, the stream, but I also have a showdown slate for that Eagles game. I think that one has the bigger prize pool today as well. All right, let me see if this is cool. I might have missed this. Thielen or DK? I slightly prefer DK Metcalf in one lineup. Moore or Burnett? Give me David Moore over Burnett. The media is saying the Vikings have no chance. I had to turn the TV off. I have hope. I assume you're a Vikings fan. That's fair. Ward or Burnett? Give me Ward. All right, I'm going to scroll through a bunch of comments to get to the end here. Wow, we have how many people are watching this right now? Somebody said 786. That can't be right. 1 hit and Ertz is out. There's a good chance. Snow and sleet, however, are overrated. I agree that snow and sleet are overrated. I got 2 kidneys, so screw it, right? Thoughts on fading Cook? Dalvin Cook? I mean, if you're playing one lineup, you can fade anybody on this slate. It's a 2-game slate. If you're playing one lineup, you don't have to play Michael Thomas. There's no must plays. Thomas is close to it, but he's also priced up. And the rest of the play, DraftKings made this slate very well priced. The mid-range and the low range at every position, except for tight end, but that's usually how it is, suck. The guys at 5,000 and below suck at wide receiver. The guys at 5,000 and below at running back suck. So if you want to pay for Thomas and Kamara plus or Cook, you want to pay for 2 of those top dogs with Thomas being one of them, the rest of your lineup is really going to have to deliver for you. Whereas if you just say, okay, Michael Thomas, just don't go for 35 to 40 today, and Dalvin Cook and Kamara, or you get to Lockett. So I don't think anybody's a must play, no. Wind is overrated. Sal 2020. Yeah, that's my slogan on it. Yep. I love that. One step and Ertz is out. Yep. Thanks, Sal. You the man. Will you ever do live shows for NBA? Yes, I will be. So I'll be on some more Awesemo shows in the morning and probably a live before lock weekly. But I'm going to try and schedule it so that it's tough because obviously Awesemo, they're the best in the industry at their shows in terms of viewership, right? Live before lock an hour before. And then the Deeper Dive is a fantastic show with Adam and Lofty, and if sometimes Alex is on it himself. It's a great show. I enjoy watching that show. I would like to go live at some point in there. The games that are at like 8 o'clock starts, those ones are where I'm really going to try and take advantage of it because Awesemo will start at 6 and then 7. I can get a stream in there around 5:30. Because it's not even etiquette. Like I don't care if I'm streaming while they are. The internet's an open space, right? It's just more so like obviously I want as much viewership as I possibly can get. If I'm on the same time as the Awesemo guys, well, I might get some viewership, but it's not even worth it at that point for me. So potentially I'll start doing like some 4:30 to 5 o'clock streams. Then the Awesemo guys will start up. But on those 8 p.m. starts or 7:30 p.m. starts, it helps me a lot because I can get in there where people are off of work at like 5:30, and I can get a stream in. All right, gang. I'm going to bounce. You can reach out on Twitter. Follow me over there. I really do appreciate that. If you want to sign up for Drafters and you want to play today or for NBA, I have my Drafters is SAL100, promo code SAL100. I see somebody donated, so I'll answer your question for sure. If you want to make sure I'm about to answer a question, you can donate. But also, NBA projections, I already put them out. I'll be updating them for the Kevin Love news right after this. 4-game NBA slate. Not a ton of great contests for the second day in a row on NBA because the NFL is on with these big playoff slates, so that kind of sucks. But there are some decent contests in the NBA today. Nothing great. So best of luck today, everybody. I'm going to answer short sleep. He says, late. Sorry if it was discussed. Philly backfield. Miles Sanders is the only thing I would touch. He is my third running back behind 1 Kamara and 2 Dalvin Cook. Think Sal picked Lynch. No, I would pick Homer over Lynch, but I don't really like either too much. Scott 6 receptions, somebody says. Ooh. Loved watching Davis Chalk get 0. Who's Davis Chalk? Somebody played Davis Chalk? Who is Davis Chalk? Oh, Corey Davis Chalk? I thought you were talking about Robert Davis. Yeah. Corey Davis Chalk, 20% of the field getting 0. That's crazy. Great show. You the man. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button before you go. I would love to get to 20,000 subscribers by the Super Bowl and love to get to 18,000 subscribers by the end of the day today. Let me see where we're at right now before I go. Awesemo starring Sal. You were on all day around Christmas. Yeah, man. I was busting out some shows then. A lot of people needed coverage, so I was trying to get on there. We are 5 away from 17,900. We're 105 away from 18,000. So we might not get it today, but maybe with a little bit of a push. So please do hit that subscribe button. Tell your mother, your brother, your friends, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. Peace out, gang. Peace out.